Portmore, Jamaica's 15th parish, or political power move. Tonight on The Conversation, we go beyond the politics to the real impact. We journeyed to the bustling streets of Portmore, St. Catherine, where we asked several citizens their thoughts on the issue. Let's take a look.
Build up the place and make it, more employment and everything, Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
I think that's majoring in the minor. The 14 parishes already having their own problems. Recently I went to the hospital because my father is ill, and the doctors they work hard, and limited bed. My father had to sit on a chair. I couldn't sit down because a patient actually needed a chair, so I had to stand up beside him. So the current situations that we're already facing, I think we need to fix those, and then we can say Portmore will be a parish, because we don't have a hospital over here. Portmore Hospital Complex is not a hospital.
Yeah, Portmore can be the 15th parish. Portmore has come a far way, so yeah, the upgrade is good.
Portmore is already Portmore. Why make Portmore 15 parish? We already have a mayor, we don't have a hospital. And so many amenities we don't have, so why make it a parish? That's stupidness.
It's not ready.
It's not ready.
It can work and it will work. Basically, our property taxes and other taxes that has been collected over the years, if it stays in Portmore, in our municipality, it can go a far, far away in terms of roads, infrastructure, hospital. The hospital will be placed over by Southborough, right across from Newland. A fire station would be needed in Greater Portmore, so that way, when the fire them broke out over there, so our trucks stay here for Independence City, passes Fort Westchester. But in terms of being a 15th parish, yeah, we have attractions over here which persons from overseas can do. You have Helsha, you have Forum, you have Twin Sister Cave. All of those places need to be rehabilitated and reopened.
First of all, Portmore need whole it more developed. The road them need to get wider. We need a hospital. Portmore need whole it more things to talk about 15 parish, brother. You see me? Whole it more things, whole it more art. So far, them have built about 5 new housing scheme. Just imagine the traffic already over here, and imagine the traffic for go and come them time that when the whole, you have one at Elsha, one out on I-95, one at Westchester, one way up there. So when all of them people they come, remember people, when you live at Portmore, you can't swim, Nobody will live at Portmore. Them tell us that them can't swim. If you can't swim, if you can't swim, you got drown, because Portmore expensive. So when they tell you about 15 parish, when the people them drop down, where we going to bring them? Spanish Town? Tell me, Spanish Town? But 15 parish have hospital, them not ready. You hear that? Them not ready, brother. So them a build the park, when the people them drop down over the park, what happen? Them not ready, brother. Them have to do better. Whole it more, them have to do. If make us say 15 parish. You know, so man take a behave, man take come like a city itself. Look on Westmoreland and put more overpopulated, and you say you want to do something for it. Do better than that, brother. That's not ready. You have to try it better than that, and that's all me have to say. You see me?
Waste of time. Waste of time. Me love when me write anything, me just write St. Catherine on it. Beautiful name. You understand what I say? And to all me see, and when me see them I try to bring it go, it's just a thing where them are going to put money in them own pocket and enjoy them own wealth and them life and everything. Me and I benefit from it, leaving from where it is now to where them want it to go. Because more infrastructure need for put in, and all the other little things need for happen before them can. Them don't even need to think about it. Because we are right as how it is. You understand? Them are try to say them want to change it, but when we pray the level of everything, we look upon it and I say, what the real reason why they want to change it from St. Catherine to just Portmore? You understand? And many things to talk about, but in a real shortening to make them understand. So yeah, we just leave this and find some time to fix the road them bad in a Portmore and try to sort out more things I need to deal with, and make we happy. Build a road from probably Portmore more or less, go Edgewater, go across the park, where you come off of the toll, and if you not use the mall, you don't need to come this side, you just go straight Edgewater and them way there. Find other things and do in a Portmore.
So, welcome to The Conversation. By the way, Dr. Archer, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So, we have heard a lot of mixed reviews right here, but let's start with what you have said. You have made it clear in your speech before that Portmore is not ready to become a parish. Why? What's the fundamental issue by that, and what can you pull from what we have just watched to buttress your point?
Right. Well, I think the sentiments of the residents of Portmore is very clear. If you were to do the quick frequency analysis, I think more residents of Portmore are saying we need to do some other things. This is majoring in minor, and I agree with them. So if we were to look at history, and that's an important point to start, when the area was designated as a municipality, it wasn't an overnight activity. In fact, there was discussions from as far back as the mid to late 1990s. Yes. And I joined that conversation activities in 2000. I just returned having worked in municipal government in New York, and so doing planning, and so quite well au fait with how do we move, how do we designate, what are some of the steps, and those steps were well advanced in terms of assessing the land use pattern, assessing the population trends to be able to designate, looking at the structure of the governance structure in particular that this municipality would have been. Having done that from 2003, and it was very thorough, in my estimation, in terms of that process, very engaging. I was part of some of the discussions, going to some of the meetings, the consultation, collecting data to say this would work based on feedback, that would not work. And so we had the designation in the 2003 Municipalities Act. And in the 2003 Municipalities Act, it gave power to the municipality, and it outlined very clearly the roles and functions and what the municipality ought to do. Yes? Now, with that too should have come the resources for the municipality to be able to carry out its role and function. That did not happen to the extent that it ought to have happened to support that designation. Then we had, at that time, because there were several iterations, started in the 1990s for the local government reform. So this came out of activities from, as I said, far back in the 1990s to look at, to reform local government. And one of the reasons we need to understand why it was important to reform local government is the fact that the belief, the accepted notion by especially donor agency, that you need greater participation in decision making, you need to involve persons closer to the people at the local level. And so we at the time, Jamaica agreed, yes, and we need to then reform local government. There were several iterations of the process of local government reform, started in the mid to late 1990s, culminating then in 2003 with this new municipality. And the new municipality, Portmore, was because they said, look, they had this great mass of people in this space requiring services, paying property taxes. How do we ensure that they are part of the process?
So this was done in an effort to manage all of that, that movement.
Yes.
And you stated that they have typically been under-resourced after becoming a municipality.
Yes. And not just Portmore, but most of our local government institutions. They are under-resourced.
But
they have been under-resourced.
When you state, you started talking about the fact that some of the donor agencies would have stated that these things were necessary. What which donor agencies are we talking about?
Well, for example, when we had moved to the Millennium Development Goals and now the Sustainable Development Goals, if you look at Sustainable Development Goal 11, yes,
all right,
which is, I've been part of that process globally, looking at how do we get to Goal 11, achieve Goal 11, safe, inclusive, resilient towns, cities, neighborhoods. Part of being inclusive is to ensure that the voices of the residents are heard and are included in the decision-making
process.
Yes. So they had that in the 2003. In 2000, when we had the local government reform working group, the government of the day had set up a working group. I was part of that process. It was chaired by Nettleford and Jones, Professor Jones was part of it. So it was well studied.
That would have been under the People's National Party administration then, because I think when they were in power, that's when Portmore became a parish.
Yes.
Sorry, a municipality.
Municipality, right. And so it was recognized that this thing need to be studied. The municipalities are part of the reform process, because think about it being an experiment, so to speak. So you need to go back now, having designated it in 2003, over time look at the trends to inform how do we go.
So my question now though is that fast forward from 2003 to 2025 now, that's the better part of 22 years.
Yes.
All right. So it would have been a longitudinal study. You're saying
that...
Well,
the study never took place. Let's be very clear.
So that's where I was going. Yes. So the study hasn't taken place any at all.
No. To be fair, some of my colleagues, both at UA and myself, we have looked at different iterations. And, you know, for example, I have published papers on the governance structure. What would be the most effective governance structure to manage not just Portmore, but
other
local,
municipalities.
Other municipality. And colleague Eris Skoberg from UWI, she would have done more in-depth look at Portmore, questioned and made some recommendations. So, but in terms of now the municipality itself, looking at how do we go forward, for example, I know that it took them several years to complete their land use plan.
Yes.
Yes, several years. And even with the completion, they are not conforming, yes, to that land use plan. As best as they can, they have managed, meaning that you look to see where do we put the housing units and the type of housing units, but it has not been built out because, for example, we talk about the resources, and we know how it is structured in Jamaica, where municipalities do not get, a local government, they do not get direct funds for, you know, from their property tax. It goes to the council, then it passes back through them.
So tell me about the logic though, because the government now is arguing that with parish status, we will see an increase in growth, an increase in autonomy, but you are saying that it won't. What's the missing logic there?
Because the provision of the Municipality Acts allow for that to happen. And it hasn't happened. So let us use what is currently in place. The act is very, very clear, you know, in terms of service provision, who should be so empowered. All of this, but because we have more of a centralized system as opposed to a decentralized system and a disempowered local authority, we are not able to fully realize. Secondly, coming out of the local government reform advisory group, we had made several recommendations: fully entrenched local government, greater participation of citizens in the, Now, we had 3 acts that were passed based on the recommendations of the working group. One being the Local Governance Act of 2016, which empowered local government and the citizenry to be more involved. Yes? We have not enacted, we have not implemented the provisions of these acts, but it is there. So we do not have to reinvent or recreate because the provisions are there. But I'll go further, something that I just realized. When you look at the boundaries of Portmore, because
proposed boundaries,
boundaries, what is now being defined as the Portmore parish boundaries, you have where they cross over into another parish, which would be St. Catherine.
Yes.
And that is problematic because in the Constitution, when you are defining parish, and then, of course, within the parish, the constituencies, a constituency cannot be in one parish and then in another. And if they were to look closer, and this is where the geographer in me comes out, that I think these are some of the consideration. So we have geographic boundaries that are drawn that are questionable. We have designation from municipality to parish when the designation is already provided for in the Municipalities Act. And we have allocation of resources that the national government has not supported Portmore and the other municipalities so that they can fully realize and manage their affairs.
So as we ease into the break now, if this decision goes ahead without fixing all those underlying problems, what's the worst case scenario for Portmore?
Okay. Confusion. I mean, and especially at the time that they are announcing it, months before the national election, where persons are saying, okay, where do I vote? Someone asked the question, because I've been following it, where do I now pay my property tax? What address now do I? Those, as I said, when we started the conversation on moving from Portmore, just being a community to a municipality, it was for at least 5 to 10 years before we. So to come now and to say literally overnight, you're moving from municipality to parish without geographic
readiness
and other consideration, it is going to be a point of serious contention and confusion.
All right, with that we go to our first break. Just want to remind you, you're watching The Conversation, where I'm sat here with Dr. Carol Archer. She is a professor of urban planning and public policy. Continue to stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Conversation. We're speaking with Professor of Urban Planning and Public Policy, Dr. Carol Archer.
Carol,
So,
yes.
Just before the break, one of the questions that I wanted to ask, though, is whether or not Portmore becoming a parish, if there's any potential for St. Catherine to be hurt. In other words, what are some of the ripple effects that communities outside of Portmore will actually feel in terms of losing resources or gaining resources?
Right. Well, I think one of the biggest loss will be experienced through by St. Catherine, because, as you know, the parochial road fund, in that where you assess the road network, the parochial road network within the parish, and fees are allocated accordingly. Yes? So in addition to Portmore, other areas in form that helps St. Catherine to get revenue. So if that is taken from St. Catherine, they are going to lose revenue. Yes? Now, it's also a loss for Portmore because they would have even fewer parochial roads from which they can draw funds. Yes? In terms of the whole question of local government reform and strengthening unless that is done, where the local authorities are empowered to be able to increase their revenue. Now, Portmore would be at a disadvantage, as with most small parishes, the St. Thomas, the St. Mary's.
So help me to understand now, based on what I'm gathering from what you have been saying, is that if we continue as we are continuing now, there are no financial nor governance advantages to be gained with this push?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So,
not at all.
So then now, this takes me to the other point. You have criticized the government for pushing without academic consultation or without proper consultations.
Right. So
why is this such a red flag?
It's not just the academic.
Yeah, well, that's why I say proper consultation.
Because to make any decision, and so at the base of public policy, is to ensure that you have what issue are you trying to address? Yes? I think what the government needs to be is very clear to us. What issue are they trying to address by changing the status? Yes? And then how are you going to address that particular issue? What approach are you going to take? Then, of course, with the consultation, the data gathering, the assessment, the analysis of the data, which suggests here are some approaches that you may take. And, of course, then the government decide and provide the resources to support that decision. So I am not clear where they are in the public policy process. Yes? But public policy is a very clear process in terms of how government make their decision, whether it's at government at local level or government at the national level. And I think one of the things that we need to ask of the government is, where are we in the process? And first of all, what issue are we trying to address?
All right,
yes? And where are we in the process? And what resources will be brought to bear?
So what I'm hearing
this.
What I'm hearing from you is that there needs to be a lot more clarity on this whole process.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
you have also said that, and you're also implying that past consultations were more data-driven. And so my question is, what's missing this time?
Well, I can tell you from what I have, where I'm sitting, when with the change from Portmore, the community of Portmore, to the municipality, I was part of the process where they approached us at UTEC, asked our assistance in collecting field data, analyzing. So we looked at trends in the land use pattern, the socio-demographic changes, how the population has changed, travel patterns, all of that we contributed to. In fact, my student, interestingly, some of the two students that I had interning with me later went on to be employed to the municipality. Yes, based on the work that they did. So I was very much part of the process in terms of data collection. Then there was the looking at the legislative framework. Yes, and so that too we were involved, because coming out of the local government working group, there were several iterations. Yes,
okay.
There, where the people who were working on the Portmore part of it, they were able to take from what was done to inform the municipality.
So we understand that the government has held town hall meetings. What you seem to be saying is that these aren't quote-unquote real or thorough enough consultations. So what should they have done, or what could they have done differently in this entire process?
Well, I have heard of town hall meetings. I have not seen any data, because normally when you have the town hall meetings, then you would synthesize the information, and it's not just one town hall, or not just only a reliance on that kind of qualitative data. It is looking at the trend in the census, looking at some economic factors, looking at factors associated with infrastructure, and cost, all of those things that, you know, you'd look at several variables, several factors that would inform the growth and development of a city, and how then you would build out from town to city, municipality to parish. So I'm not sure. I know there were some consultations.
But you're not sure the extent of the consultations.
That they took that information gathered from the consultation to build out the broader picture.
So what you're saying now is that for all the notes, let's look at it from a classroom perspective.
Yes.
All the notes that were available from 2003 until now,
Yes.
you're very doubtful that they're actually looking over those notes to ensure that they can inform the current actions that they're there.
Well, I think that's where we should be, so that persons can say, oh yes, you know, the majority, so present to us the facts and figures, so to speak, yes?
So then now, if, for example, land use data and other urban planning research elements was actually used, what different recommendations do you think might have emerged?
Well, I know for sure, because my colleague Skoberg and work that I have done suggests that when you look at the economic patterns, Portmore is moving in tandem with most cities, most urban center at this size, and especially in small island developing states. We need to be very careful in terms of some global imperatives, especially coming out of COVID,
Yes.
right, which can literally paralyze a town. So we need to look at how do we what are some of the things we need to do for our towns and our neighborhoods and our cities to be resilient?
So inclusive, resilient, and
Yes.
okay.
So that, and by resilient we mean the governance structure. By resilient we mean the economic base. By resilient we mean the
Social infrastructure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think understanding those factors, then you can use that to say, how do we then now move to the next level?
So Jamaica has a history of policy making without data. Is this just another case of that particular trend?
Well, as I said, I don't know, I have not seen. Maybe the data is there. The administration just have not presented it to us. So I'm interested. I know the technocrats who would be working on things such as this, they are seized with the policy process. So I would imagine the data is there. So I would just urge the decision makers to present that to us, and not that Portmore, being a parish, will get a hospital, right?
So,
show us the data, give us the path that would allow for it to get there, and also answer, well, why is it that it cannot get there under the current provisions?
So we're easing into our break now, and I want to ask you this final question. We talk a lot about Vision 2030. We talk a lot about the Sustainable Development goals. If Portmore's parish plan, is it a step forward or a step in the wrong direction right now? So we're not talking broadly, we're just talking right now.
I think if we look at the time and the resource that we're putting into this discussion, as one of your viewers note, the resources could be better used to ensure that the services are being provided for the people of Portmore. I think that is because the speed at which we are moving this along, and I'm trying to understand why, we might end up with a situation where by the time we get the legislation passed, we might not have the governance structure, because the governance structure, once it's passed, would nullify the
one that exists
the
now.
one that exists. So we won't have a mayor of Portmore, even when the people had voted for a mayor of Portmore. So you need to you need to move in steps. Yes?
Wow.
And I'm not sure it is moving such at dizzy speed.
Yeah.
As a policy practitioner, I cannot keep my finger on where we are in the process, unfortunately.
So we're going into our break now. So Dr. Archer, thank you very much for taking the time to sit and having this conversation with us. We just want to remind you that you should continue to stay with us. We're actually going to ask some more questions now, but when we come back from this particular break, we are going to be speaking with Mr. Robert Miller, MP for St. Catherine South Eastern. Continue to stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the conversation. Joining in on the debate is we have the MP for St. Catherine South Eastern, a JLP MP, Mr. Robert Miller. How are you? Welcome to the conversation. Wait. So move fast unless you want to wing it. Welcome back to the conversation. Joining in on the debate now is Jamaica Labour Party's Member of Parliament for South Eastern St. Catherine, Mr. Robert Miller. Welcome to the conversation. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me. Thanks to your listeners.
So you would have seen the video that was conducted by our own Britannia Henry, and we saw a whole heap of mixed reviews as far as parish status is concerned. This whole conversation, and so. You know, you've been vocal. You've been a very vocal supporter of Portmore's elevation to parish status. But let's be a little bit more upfront here. What's the actual benefit that will be derived by the people of Portmore if this thing comes through?
All right. So bear in mind that I am vocal on the issue, in favor of the issue, because of my consultations that I had with my constituents.
That you have had and you're still having.
Absolutely, and still having. So the reality is that we would have consultation and persons, not everybody would be in agreement with it, because as a people, we're not enthused to changes in any way, shape, or form. But the reality is that majority of the persons that we spoke to in our consultation is for Portmore to be the 15th parish.
Mm-hmm. So just before the break, just before we started, you were saying some things, you were telling me that we should have asked particular questions about the panelist that was here earlier, and also you went as far as to say that, you know, she might have been a little disingenuous as far as her own stance is concerned. What should we take from that particular statement? You know, what's your view on that? You think she was balanced in her representation of the facts?
I wouldn't make an assessment because I wasn't in the complete conversation that you had with her. But it's someone that I know personally. She's experienced in her field.
Yes.
You know, she actually represented on the political arena the opposition party twice in general election against a member of parliament, and she was not successful.
So you think that would necessarily mean that she's biased?
She also assisted in what is there now as a model at the Municipal Council of Portmore. I would leave the viewers to determine that. The reality is it's very important that we give those information out there so people can assess, just as how you mentioned that the JLP Member of Parliament, Robert Miller, and I have no problem with that.
She's not a Member of Parliament, so we wouldn't do that.
But she would have had certain political persuasion.
All right. So from the discussion that we have had, she stated that she's not against Portmore becoming a parish. She's simply saying, from a professional perspective, that Portmore isn't ready. There's no proper land use assessment, there's no real data. And the question that she asked, why push ahead if the groundwork isn't there?
So I'm very disappointed if she went to that conclusion, because the reality is in 2020, when I just became Member of Parliament, one of the first joint select committee that we had was Portmore becoming the 15th parish, which was chaired by Dr. Andrew Wheatley. We had intensive meetings around 9 months. Members of the opposition were a part of that joint select committee, and all the members of Parliament in Portmore were members of that joint select committee. We had consultations from all the agencies you can think of: fire brigade, health, local government, NEPA, all the agencies. And they came to us and told us that in order for a community to become a parish, the only requirement that is needed is a parish court. And Portmore as a court. Is it adequate? No, it's not. But it's going to be enhanced. And the reality is, I've heard the argument about this hospital. Mark, a hospital is needed in Portmore. There's no two-way about it. The administration committed to that. And the reality is that what Ministry of Health told us at that same Joint Select Committee meeting is that the world benchmark for healthcare is within 10 miles of an individual. The furthest point in Portmore is less than 10 miles to Spanish Town and less than 10 miles to KPH. When I think about Lawrence Tavern, those persons that live way in the hills, for them to reach at UA, for them to reach at KPH is more than 10 miles. And I'll leave this point with you as well, in the sense that when I graduated from Bridgeport High School, the best high school, I never had the tuition for tertiary education. I said I would have worked to send myself to school because I didn't want to take student loan. Did I have all the resources to go to school? No. You'll never have all the resources. All the parishes in Jamaica still doesn't have all the resources.
But adding another one to the list of those that don't have the resources, do you think that's a wise idea right now?
I believe that Portmore is poised. I believe that Portmore is ripe. I believe that Portmore individuals can run their affair. This happened from in the 2000s when George Lee and the most honorable Portia Simpson Miller wanted Portmore to become a parish. And it started from then. It went to Parliament in 2016 and was withdrawn. And then the Prime Minister of Jamaica, while we were campaigning for the 2020 election, it was in our manifesto that we will make Portmore to be the 15th parish. It's the only parish as a people that we have created. And when you look at what is there now, and if you permit me, it's an untidy engagement. Reason why I say that: persons that lives in Caribbean Estate, for example, which is known as Greater Portmore North. Right? A part of Pines Division is Grange Lane, Quarry Hill, Lime Tree Grove, which is in Spanish Town. Persons that lives in those areas, along with Caribbean Estate and Country Club, they can vote for the Council of Portmore, but they can't vote for the Mayor of Portmore. So they are represented by a Portmore councillor, but a Spanish Town mayor. It is untidy.
So then no, you can admit that what she's arguing for is for this arrangement, the current arrangement, to be fine-tuned, and then you look to move into what's there, because Fitzjackson was on an earlier iteration of the program, and he had stated that the original goal of municipal status was to ensure that there was better governance, not necessarily breaking away from St. Catherine, and my question now, doesn't the parish status risk ignoring what Portmore actually needs?
No, because the parish status will organize the better governance. And what I articulated earlier, it will clear up all those monopolies. And the issue is as well, the 12 councillors in Portmore must attend the St. Catherine Municipal Council meeting.
We heard that
Failure to do so, they will not be paid. They're doing 2 jobs for 1 pay. More time will be had in their divisions in Portmore. Not only that, but every land that is owned by the Portmore Municipal Council it is owned by the St. Catherine Municipal Council in trust. Now, Portmore will own all their lands. Not only that, but a portion of the license fees and property taxes,
Yes.
Portmore has an over 94% compliance. All of that resources will stay into Portmore for more infrastructure.
So another argument that was tendered earlier was that much of that, now as it stands, it's not directly fed into the municipal corporations. It's pretty much held and then distributed. So because the system is not as decentralized as it ought to be, so you still might end up having those issues because these seem like issues that we have now going into the parish exercise. The fact that we became a municipality and we weren't able to fix those issues, what guarantees do we have now that becoming a parish will automatically fix those?
Are we serious about fixing it? That's one of the things.
That's one of the questions that you can answer.
The reality is that we have been talking for years. When do we as a people stop talking?
That's for you to tell me.
And that's what we're doing. We're implementing to fix those issues that plague the Portmore City Municipal Council. Because as I stated earlier, the governance issues, they are there. Right? We have to sort out those governance issues. We have to ensure that the citizens of Caribbean Estate in particular, that is housed in Portmore, get an opportunity to be represented by someone.
In Portmore.
We have to ensure as well that all our taxes that are collected stay in Portmore for more infrastructures. Will we have all the resources as a people? No, you'll never have all the resources.
No, man.
But this administration is bent in carrying out that task and developing Portmore.
So what I'm hearing, is that if we become this, so let's put it another way then. So let's say that I'm courting a young lady and we have these problems. And the assumption that is being made that if we go ahead and get married, then these issues will be fixed. But clearly there are other ways that we can look to address some of these issues before we actually get married. So I'm not sure.
If that is your approach,
I'm just asking.
If that is your approach, that's a wrong way of doing stuff. That's a reality. In no way, shape, or form, what I've said should bring you to that perception.
No.
What I'm saying is that if you're courting a young lady, you have to get counseling.
Yes.
And we got counseling in the joints. Give me a chance to answer, please.
Go on, man. Go on.
We got an opportunity with a joint select committee. The experts came in. The expert gave us their advice. The expert even said that there is no issue with Portmore becoming a parish because the governance issue, the infrastructure issue, they are in place. As a matter of fact, they said that Portmore is larger than many parishes in Jamaica, 4 or 5 parishes.
Population density,
in terms of population, in terms of opportunities. And also, it is said that, and since I became Member of Parliament for Southeast St. Catherine, I have done a lot in my constituency for Portmore. I am not sitting here saying that when we become a parish, then we will have all these amenities. No, I'm not saying that. But the administration of today is strident and resolute in ensuring that we develop Portmore.
So the opposition has made claims that this is gerrymandering. All right, it's an electoral strategy to ensure that you lock in JLP safe seats. By cutting off Portmore from St. Catherine. What's your response to that particular accusation?
I could not speak to that in terms of political boundaries. That is selected by the Electoral Office of Jamaica. The Parliament or the politicians has nothing to do with that. EOJ, Fisher, the head of EOJ, came out and said the independent persons of the commission will select the political boundaries. So the reality is, it's on tape as well, where the former GenSec stated that they cut St. James to satisfy the PMP. So it could be said that they have that perception, and everything that they do, they tend to bring politics in the midst,
so you're saying
which is unfortunate.
That's unnecessary politicking. That's what you're saying.
It's unfortunate.
All right, so we just want to remind you that you are watching The Conversation. I'm here with Robert Miller, JLP MP. Continue to stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the conversation. Just before the break, one of the questions that was really on my mind is if this particular push to make Portmore the 15th parish, if it's not about politics and if there's no real rush, why not pause and do some more research and let the people and work and let the people truly decide? Because fact is though, we know about, we have heard about the town hall meetings that have been conducted, but let me just say, I live in Portmore. I don't know
But
of
do you live in
anyone.
Portmore?
Yes, I don't know of anyone who has been a part of the town hall meetings directly. I know somebody who can say, oh, we know of somebody, but they themselves have not been in it. Okay. So I'm just looking at the fact that it may be that these consultations aren't as comprehensive enough. Okay. Why not aim for that and then forge ahead?
So the reality is, as I stated earlier, that we have been speaking for years on this issue. From George Lee time, a discussion was had in transforming Portmore into 15th parish. The reality is I can't speak of other members of parliament. I can speak of my constituency, that I had intensive consultations with the presidents of the associations. I've been to the association meetings. We had 2 meetings at heart. As a matter of fact, the most honorable Prime Minister stated before the local government election that he will not table the bill in Parliament until after the local government election, and that commitment was given. And there was 1 year of consultation as well, in which the Prime Minister came over, the Prime Minister had consultation as well. The Prime Minister went to 4 different churches in my constituency and had consultations.
So you have built a strong political career. You know, but let's talk straight. What does Portmore becoming a parish, what does that do for you, or what does that mean for you politically?
It's all about the people. I wouldn't say for me politically, right? Because my seat is not affected by this, right? In terms of development, I lived in Portmore. I was schooled in Portmore, and I'm representing Portmore. I want the best for my constituents and the people of Portmore. The reality is that the opposition is talking about consultations. What happened in 2002 when they imposed the toll on the backs of the citizens of Portmore? Pay to go to work and pay to come home. Was any consultation done then? It was imposed. This administration had consultation. Portmore being the 15th parish, it will be the first parish as a people of Jamaica.
In
we have created our own parish. And not only that, it will give Portmore its own identity. I am from the parish of Portmore. Not one disadvantage can be given. Dr. Archer was here. Dr. Archer wasn't against the parish.
No, she wasn't.
Not one disadvantage can be given why it shouldn't be a parish.
So we're saying that you are a JLP MP in a hotly contested area. The opposition argues that this move is a move to strengthen the JLP's hold in St. Catherine Southeastern. Do you see how that looks politically convenient?
Well, that they say that is a trust to strengthen Minister Terry Long's seat. That's what they say. However, research has shown that Minister Terry Long has won his constituency twice, and he has won it the last time handsomely than before, with the same areas that they're lobbying for are on the constituency. So what are we saying? You know, what the opposition should do is do some valuable work in Portmore and ensure that we enhance the parish. Not one disadvantage can be given why it shouldn't be a parish. Let us all come together and give the people what they want.
So it has been alleged that there was a leaked JLP conversation where a party member claims or said that it was about never losing certain seats. You know, what would be your response to that particular claim?
I couldn't speak to that. I have not heard that leak. And the reality is we have heard something in the media of what the former General Secretary stated when he was GenSec for the People's National Party, that they had to cut some seat. We have heard that, but I've not heard the discussion asking about that. Right? And I've not heard about this leak in my party.
So, all right, there's also no the statement that, you know, and you can appreciate from some of the implications or what was implied in the video that we showed earlier, that they weren't persons weren't properly consulted, and that the decision that is being made is being pushed from the top down as opposed to from the bottom up. Why wasn't there what we can call now a referendum or a direct vote on this particular issue?
All right, so as a people, we have to be very careful in terms of some of the stuff that we ask for. And you know, if a political party puts its manifesto out there and at the end of 5 years, they have not achieved anything in their manifesto, you will hear that this political party has done nothing. What the Jamaica Labour Party is doing is satisfying its manifesto promise.
So would this be the crowning glory?
What I'm saying is it's not entrenched for us to have a referendum. And the reality is we're moving from the parliamentary system to a republic. Is there going to be a referendum? No.
Why
it's
not?
I'm just saying. But the reality is that I would not say it's from the top down.
What would you say?
We had consultation, and let me repeat again for the benefit of your listeners, because you keep on asking the same question
because
in a different way.
The question is, they're stating that it wasn't properly consulted.
If you allow me to speak.
Go on.
We had a joint select committee for 8 months. Persons were asked to make submission to the joint select committee. The date was extended. 2 opposition councillors in my constituency gave their submission as well. We had 3 town hall meetings, and also I have had consultation in my constituency. I know that my colleague Minister Terry Long had consultation in his constituency, and the municipal council had consultation as well.
So the consultation was over a period of what, 8 months?
No, it was longer than that.
All right, and the extension was given, and then you had what, 1, 2, 3 town hall meetings. So remember what we're looking at, you know. Portmore has, because we don't have the latest census, so Portmore is between 182 to 250. And then some people. Do you think that 3 town hall meetings and that level of consultation would have been proper? Because remember, you know, we're not saying that no consultation was done. The issue was that proper consultation wasn't done. That's the statement that is being made. That's what we're hearing on the ground. So that's why we're asking this question.
Man, in whose perception? You know, let me tell you about.
Well, this was a vox populi, so it was when we went there in persons, asked those questions.
There are many times when we send our own town criers and people don't turn up. We have no control over that. We had it, and I'm saying those 3 town hall meetings were just for the joint select committee. Persons were asked to make submission. We had over 40 had submission, and those persons were invited to the meeting to give their input as well, and those were residents from Portmore, right? And then we had our own personal. It was more than 4 in my constituency.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, when are we going to stop talking? When are we going to implement?
Yeah. So that time will tell. But beyond Portmore now, let us talk about your own trajectory. The question now is, what's next for Robert Miller? What's next for Big Rob? You know, are you aiming for a bigger political role? What can we expect?
So that's really the jurisdiction of the Prime Minister when that time shall come. My focus now, I love what I'm doing. I believe that I'm doing a very good job in Southeast St. Catherine. I ensure that I'm there for all my constituents. The reality is I'm trying to ensure that I serve Southeast St. Catherine and ensure that I win my 2nd term. And then the sky's the limit. It's up to the Prime Minister then as to what the Prime Minister decides to do.
So your party, the Jamaica Labour Party, has pushed major governance shifts from local government reforms to now this parish change that's there. What do you think is the JLP's long-term vision for Jamaica in terms of how it's being governed, irrespective of whether or not they win? What's the Jamaica Labour Party's long-term vision for how Jamaica is governed?
Well, the Jamaica Labour Party vision is to ensure that equal rights and justice for all, to ensure that everybody is given that opportunity in terms of governance and properly represented. The Most Honourable Prime Minister is strident in ensuring that each member of parliament serve their constituency and ensure that we're visible to the people. And I myself am doing that. I am visible to my people. I'm ensuring that I give persons in my constituency equal opportunities.
And with all that you have just said and with all that we have discussed now, do you think that where we are now, that's a guarantee that we can give to the residents of Portmore should they become the 15th parish, irrespective of whether or not they're in support of the Jamaica Labour Party?
So I'm telling you that whether or not Portmore becomes the 15th parish, however, Portmore will be the 15th parish. The government of the day, the Jamaica Labour Party government, is strident and resolute in developing Portmore. Developing Portmore means the individual person and the infrastructures that are needed in Portmore. The reality, I've heard the argument about an infirmary, a poor relief. You can't have those amenities from central government. The local government is responsible for that. When it's a parish status, then you get a poor relief, right? However, the government for years have been asking the Portmore Municipal Council for land to build a market. And up to now, we can't get a land, right? I'm passionate about infrastructures coming into Portmore. I want infrastructures coming into Portmore. I shop in my constituency. I go to Coronation Market. If I had a market in Portmore, I would have shopped in the market at Portmore. So resources, amenities are needed, and they are coming to Portmore because the government is resolute in ensuring that we give these amenities to the citizens of Portmore.
Two questions as we draw to the close of our discussion. You know, if the government is serious about better governance, you know, you can admit that, isn't there more room for the formal expert-driven study? That's one. And if this move, if history should judge this move not as governance but as gerrymandering, would you stand by it?
As I said repeatedly, the expert came and gave their input. NEPA was there. That's one of the main agencies. ODPM was there. All the agencies in the Ministry of Local Government were there. The Chamber of Commerce came. Private sector of Jamaica came. All the experts you can think of came and gave their input. And not one
was against it.
So,
all right. So, and in that same token, the People's National Party, they don't seem to be against it either. So what do you think their issue is? Is it a case whereby, because they're not the ones leading it now, then that's the issue, or you think there are other concerns?
I couldn't answer for them. The reality is that's a food of thought.
What do you think their concerns are?
That is a food of thought. And also, knowing the opposition, they have always opposed anything that this government
So they're opposing for opposition's sake.
They are living up to their true standards.
Wow. So I want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. And there you have it, people. You know, we're now out of time. The debate doesn't end here, nor does the discussion surrounding this particular topic. We want for you to continue to put in your own thoughts, your queries, your comments, and your concerns to keep that dialogue going. And follow us, share your thoughts, and stay engaged. Dr. Carl Archer and Mr. Robert Miller weighed in on this exciting debate. So now it's your turn. Join us this and every Sunday at 8 p.m. on CeenTV. I'm Kwame Thomas. Stay informed, stay empowered, take care. So,
thank you.